Hello, 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 and good evening. DuEwa here. DuEwa here with another edition of That's Code podcast. I took a little time off and now it's game time. I'm just playing with you all. Happy birthday for all the Leos. It's Leo season. So I had a number of things that I wanted to talk about. I don't know if anyone's gonna be on here with me, but that's okay. I'm gonna just keep it rolling. Because this will be on video on the playback for a bit. And then it's gonna go to YouTube, DuEwa World YouTube. And maybe to Nerdosity Podcasts. We shall see. Okay, so what's on the agenda tonight? We're going to get into the affirmative action, the Supreme Court ruling. Last month, or rather in late June, we're going to talk about will Black women be believed? And I think you all know what that's about. Will Black women be believed? Will Black women be believed moving forward? After something that has just occurred. We'll talk about Florida's Black History Standards, currently what has been written as of this past month. Hey, it could change, you know. We'll also talk about the SAG-AFTRA strike. Shout out to WGA, shout out to all the actors, and filmmakers who are taking a stand and really trying to get more of their value and their worth, the equality that they're seeking. And we'll also talk about a few other things toward the end if we have time. I don't want to be on too long. Okay, so let's start with the Supreme Court affirmative action ruling. So late in June, the Supreme Court decided to end race-based college admissions, essentially affirmative action in college admissions. And basically what that means is looking at the race of a student and deciding based on their race that they're going to get a preferred entrance as opposed to looking at a balance of the students' credentials and everything else. We know there's been a number of lawsuits. I've seen a number of lawsuits of recent, particularly with some Asian American students who were suing, if not one or more Ivy League universities for not being admitted, despite their having top, near perfect, if not perfect scores, very high GPAs and things of that nature. So according to AP News, the court's ruling meant that race could not be a factor in forcing institutions of higher education to look for new ways to achieve diverse student enrollment. The court's conservative majority effectively overturned cases reaching back 45 years, invalidating admissions plans at Harvard and the University of North Carolina, the nation's oldest private and public colleges, respectively. So it's looking at forcing the colleges and universities, and particularly these very elite universities and Ivy League schools, to change their admissions practice, affect a number of colleges. It's going to affect a select grouping of colleges, which allowed our Black Supreme Court justices to gain entrance to where they are now. Our Hispanic Latinx Supreme Court justice to gain the pathway to where they are now. Then cutting off race-based admissions, or cutting off saying that race cannot play a part in admissions, could in fact hurt some select students who are applying to these universities, whether at the undergraduate or the graduate levels, such as the law school, who may indeed make the pool a lot smaller and a lot more narrow in terms of letting in people of color, Black and brown people who may aspire to become justices, aspire to certain roles in government, in certain industries that definitely they are selecting a pool from these institutions. So the interesting part is that while this ban or this ruling may in fact decrease ethnic diversity at select colleges and universities, it does not seem to be removing that aspect of admissions, which is legacy admissions, meaning, we have a percentage of students who are able to gain entrance at certain colleges and universities because their parents, grandparents, uncle, godparents, and the like have attended these schools, have graduated, have also given money to these colleges and universities, making it a lot more likely that they're going to gain entrance and they're going to graduate, which means they're going to be in that elite pipeline to certain career pathways and certain educational opportunities beyond, undergraduate studies. So, again, in removing race from the consideration for admissions, it means still relying on a combination of, the high school grades, the GPA, the test scores, some socioeconomic factors. Of course, schools will definitely consider still looking at, a student's volunteer work, a student's work in their communities, how disadvantaged or not is a student. Those are things that may not necessarily be connected to race. I mean, obviously, a student can be fall below or within the poverty line and not be a student of color. Not making a case and saying that that's acceptable to decrease race admissions. However, this is definitely, going to change a lot for students who were really counting on having that additional kind of support or that additional platform to boost their access and likelihood that they would be accepted into some of these schools. But I mean, there's thousands and thousands of schools, right? If you don't get into Harvard, you may get into Princeton. You don't get into Princeton, you might get into Stanford. You don't get into Stanford, you might get into, so maybe a student and their family may kind of play that game a bit and, roll the dice, making sure their applications are strong. And I would say, even for me as an educator, for the students I have worked with when I was a high school educator in crafting their college essay, admission essays and scholarship essays, it was always, hey, really focus on what makes you unique. Focus on what makes you special and why this college or university wants you and why you are an asset and what you've done at your school or within your community to make yourself stand out. At the end of the day, it's really about doing all you can do to do just that. Higher ed is competitive, has been competitive. But definitely what I would say is that, I'm hoping that this does not impact negatively students of color and students who are typically and historically from underrepresented groups, students who are first generation, students who are Black and brown students who may be first generation and may not have all the resources needed to go to certain colleges, but they definitely have the grades, they've got the GPA, they have the test scores, they have the volunteer service and the employment and the other aspects of their application that make them very good, desirable students. So we definitely don't want this Supreme Court ruling to hinder the educational prospects and career trajectory of our students who really do need all the gates open because they don't have the benefit of legacy admissions, or they don't have the benefit of, six-figure $1 million parents who can pay their way through any school and who really need the extra consideration. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say about that. And if you want to know what my sources are, I looked at New York Times, the New York Times article, Supreme Court rejects affirmative action, rejection of affirmative action. That was an article that came out June 29th. My other sources are AP News, an article that came out on also on June 29th, and another source, why the Supreme Court decision on affirmative action matters, also dated June 29th. So check out some of those sources, and I'd love to know what you think about that particular issue. Again, the Supreme Court ruling to end race-based college admissions, which would particularly affect not all colleges from the looks of it, definitely may affect some Ivy League and some historic public universities as some of the ones that I mentioned. But again, students and their families will do what they need to do to make appeals and to, of course, apply to their top 5 or more colleges, because, hey, if you don't get into one, you'll get into others. But we definitely want the process to be fair. We still want equity. There is a question hanging over, what does this say about diversity, equity, and inclusion? Will this ruling now make colleges and universities say, hey, we don't have to push for diversity, equity, and inclusion now because we have received a ruling from the Supreme Court? No, that's not what that means. What this in fact means is there is a change at the college admissions level. But that does not mean that colleges, U.S. colleges and universities don't still need a push and the continued creation and maintenance of inclusive campus environments, inclusive college class environments, and continued protections for students who are in underrepresented groups, who are in vulnerable groups, and who've historically had a very difficult time with college entrance, with college financial aid, with merging into college campuses, particularly diverse students at certain colleges, PWIs. These students still need support. Down on our efforts for diversity and inclusion. No, that's not what that means. So please, let's hope that colleges continue to be innovative and looking at ways to make higher education inclusive and support all students in gaining a high quality education and support for their career paths. Okay, moving on. Moving on to my next topic. It's not fun, right? It's not fun to talk about hey, the beautiful sis with the afro on it. All right. So I just wanted to shout them out. Okay. Will Black women be believed? Okay, so you all know what happened in recent weeks. We had the young lady, Carly Russell, at the third week of July, had made a 911 call, had stated to the police in Alabama, the Hoover police, that she had seen a young child, a toddler, on the side of the highway while she was driving late at night, that she had pulled over to check on the child. And while she also made calls to family members, she had pulled over, on the side of the shoulder of the highway. And while making her phone calls to police and family, in the middle of the phone call, they heard a scream. I don't know whether this was her sister-in-law, her brother's girlfriend, her mother. After this, the young lady was not seen from nor heard from for 2 days. Yet her car was found on the side of the highway, on the shoulder of the highway. Her phone was there. Her wig was there. Several other effects of hers were there. I can't remember if they said there was a purse found, but she was gone for 2 days. And during that time, this story went so viral. It was very impressive, the speed of which the news got out that this young African-American woman, I believe she's 24, 25, recent college graduate, or had been studying nursing, had been working at a spa, and I believe a member of some esteemed women's organizations, if not one of the Greek letter sororities. And so this story went extremely viral in a short amount of time. Many of us were posting, and we're begging and pleading with people to please, we hope this young lady is found. It sounded as if something very terrible had happened to her because she was not heard from 2 days. And I'm trying to choose my words carefully. Allegedly not heard from for 2 days. I know that this is still an active case, so let me choose my words carefully. But people were worried. The general public, in addition to her family, was very worried for her. Posting on Facebook, posting on Instagram, Twitter, and all the social sites, people doing TikToks, saying, where is this young lady? We have to find her. It appears to be a kidnapping. It appears to be a trafficking case or something of that nature. And it was terrible. It makes you anxious to think for anyone, for a child or an adult that is missing and who their loved ones are looking for, and they've been disconnected from them. They haven't heard from them. They can't get them on the phone. It's like, is a parent's worst nightmare. So the time goes on, and as time goes on, there's certain statements that, the public was waiting for. And now we have, of course, weeks later, we have found out that the young lady, allegedly made up, maybe I shouldn't say allegedly, because there's already been, but that the young lady made up parts of her story, that some of the time in which she, was not heard from, her family and others considered that, yes, she had been kidnapped or she had been trafficked. And all right, here we go. Okay. Anyway, hours that law enforcement spent to locate this young lady to make sure she's safe. Hours in which I believe the FBI may have allegedly gotten involved. I don't have that right in front of me, but I am looking at a Birmingham news article, and this is WBRC, that states the young lady Russell was charged with 2 misdemeanor charges last week after her attorney said through a statement that there was no kidnapping and no baby on the side of Interstate 459 on the night of July 13th. It goes on to say that there was obviously a lot of work put in, among the police, and not only that, the community, family, friends, loved ones, employers, co-workers who were connected to the young woman. I'm sure even her sorority that she's a part of, looking for the young lady and just pleading and being on social media, doing all that everyone could to find her and make sure that she had come home safe and sound. And so that case was very puzzling, and there were a lot of social media comments, many people, even myself, saying, hey, regardless of what happened, pray for the young lady, because obviously there is some trouble here. There is some, this young woman was doing a plea for help, whether it was for attention, whether it was mental health illness, whether it was some other things at play, stress and anxiety, I don't know. But obviously, we know that this isn't something to play with. You would hope that your children and loved ones would not make up things like this and gain, the nation's time, efforts, and support. However, we're glad that she came home safe and sound. But it is definitely puzzling. And me personally, I just hope the young woman gets all the help she needs and the prayers going out to her, because to do something like this is definitely some kind of a cry for help. And it's stating that there is definitely some things going on that needs to be attended to. And we know that, during COVID and post-COVID has been a stressful time for many people, whether you were, a professional, a parent, a child, a student, a worker of some sort, a teacher. Everybody has gone through something in the last couple of years. So definitely prayers going out. But it begs the question, will Black women be believed moving forward? I would hope that Black women would be believed. I would hope that, law enforcement and authorities would do their job on any day. Good day, rainy day, sunny, snowing, that regardless of the case, if it looks like there's someone in danger, that our authorities will do what needs to be done. I don't think that we should put this fear-based narrative out there that, oh my God, this young lady has messed it up for all other Black and brown women. No, let's not put that out there. What we need to do is say, okay, yes, this young woman did have our attention and our prayers, and she did something that is puzzling, that we would hope that none of us would do. But we also know that people make mistakes. People do have mental health breaks. People do have situations where they do things that other people don't know what was going on in their head at the time. All right, so I'll just say that. I mean, there's been many TikToks, YouTubes, and everything else, Shade Room and everybody else chiming in about the young lady and making all these comments and memes. I don't need to do that. I'm an educator. I work with young people. I work with young people that have gone through and are going through a lot of things. So I have empathy for young people, and I have empathy for their parents. And we all know, if you have kids, your kids have been through some stuff and done some things that you weren't proud of. It just so happens it was a blessing that it wasn't put on social media and the public didn't find out. Okay. So I'll just end with that. But shout out to everyone who came together to look for the young woman, who pulled together for prayers and empathy for her. And I hope that things do work out for her. There's nothing too big for God, and that's what I believe. If the young woman made a mistake, people are saying, oh, she ruined her life and she ended her life. No, she didn't. She didn't. We know there are people that do way worse and they make a turnaround. Okay? But what I'm saying is championing, and I'm answering personally that no, it will not make it difficult for Black women, because if there's someone that is truly in trouble, then what needs to be done will hopefully be done. That's just my personal thought. You may have others. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Best wishes for all the people involved. And obviously they are going through the process of this case, and they're doing their due diligence. Alrighty then, moving on. Again, if you're just joining me, I'm DuEwa with That's Code. This is a new podcast, probably my third episode. It's just me talking about some things that I wish to talk about. perhaps in the news or contemporary in culture and things of that nature. It's a good time to give our thoughts. People are chiming in with some of everything about everything and anything anyway. So why not add my 2 cents, right? Okay, so let's move on. So next on my agenda is Florida's Black History Standards. So last month, what came out in the news is that Florida is planning, if not already, well, I don't know that, I don't think their schools are in session just yet. So we're in the first week of August. Florida and a team of the Department of Education and a team of their 13-member work group has drafted standards for their social studies. Florida State Standards for Social Studies 2023. And what was troubling and what people took issue with in these standards, and of course they've since made statements, right, saying, oh, you know, people are reading it out of context and, you know, they have to understand the full, you know, idea of what we're looking at and how we're revamping the curriculum. Okay. But some of the things that came out about this that people were not too happy about is a statement that black slaves actually learn very important and valuable skills during slavery, which helped them to better themselves in their lives. I may be paraphrasing, okay? But I will read from their document. It's a 216-page document that lists these revised standards for teaching African American history in social studies. On page 6, one of the standards here, we have examined the various duties and trades performed by slaves, e.g. agricultural work, painting, carpentry, tailoring, domestic service, blacksmithing, and transportation. What were they, driving buses? Transportation, painting. They were painting houses during slavery. Instruction includes how slaves develop skills which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit. Let's talk about that. For their personal benefit, first of all, if they were slaves, they weren't getting paid. That's one. If they were slaves, they were being forced. I think my video just went out. If you're talking about the Underground Railroad, I just feel like more Harriet Tubman and more of the Black slaves who truly risked everything to not only gain freedom for themselves, but to pull others along to gain freedom should be discussed in general when you're talking about the Underground Railroad. But yeah, that's definitely what people have a problem with. It's almost making it sound like Black slaves, African slaves, were on a vacation of their own choosing and were able to choose the work that they were doing for personal benefit. I just think the wording of it is a bit is tone deaf, and it's not culturally sensitive. You know, you all can access this document. The governor has spoken out. We know that there was some issue with some AP courses and textbooks, and Florida has made their statement on that they are teaching race in a different way. They do not want it to be stated, known, or discussed that there is anyone who is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive, whether consciously or unconsciously, solely by virtue of his or her race or sex. That is also a part of this. So I think that there are some things that people are definitely concerned about. We're definitely, wondering just, is this something that all states will adopt? If you're a parent of a school-age child, do you have concerns about this? So definitely just wanted to kind of mention that. Okay. So that's Florida's Black History, or rather social studies standards. If you all are interested to know what sources I pulled from that, you can definitely go to Google and Google the state standards. They have a 200 plus page Microsoft Word or PDF document that's gone out on that. I believe several others links, New York Times and others have posted articles on this, and you can become informed. Okay, now let's go to the SAG-AFTRA strike. Shout out to actress Fran Drescher, who is the current president of, and I want to make sure I get this right. Let's go to one of my sources. Fran Drescher is the current union president of SAG-AFTRA, and she called for a strike. She and many actors and filmmakers, performers who are a part of this in July have decided a business and a greedy entity. She says that we are the victims here. We're being victimized by a greedy entity, and I'm shocked by the way the people that we have been in business with are treating us, excuse me. There is an issue about the salary and the finding the strike. There are people that are really standing behind Fran Drescher. Some of our faves, our favorite actors and filmmakers, are definitely striking with connection, effectively bringing Hollywood to a standstill. Okay. The union work takes precedence, of course, over everything. Drescher has stated that, I have, that she is committed to this work and committed to supporting what the actors need. She says that big stars that earn 7 and 8 figures, they're the engine that makes it all run. They're the thing that draws people into the theaters and allows everybody below them to work and make a living. So she says she has nothing against some of the stars that are making the top salaries. But she's saying overwhelmingly 86% of the people among their 160,000 members strong do not make enough money that even make them eligible for health benefits. So she's saying their salaries are actually low, very low, $26,000, which is equivalent, of a part-time job. So hey, we know that people who are not actors and performers wouldn't work for that. So let alone the people that are busting their butts to entertain us, right? We love the movies and the streaming and all that, but these people, when you find out they're not getting paid, you're like, oh no, this is not right. Hollywood has to take care of these people. These big studio heads and CEOs need and just do. Okay. A few more here. All right, so I really didn't want to becoming a top performer. We know that she represents the body positive, not only the gender equity, but also being a big, beautiful girl and being and big or large people, as well as for gender, it's like shocking and doesn't make sense that there would be something about a sexual harassment or a hostile workplace that is attributed or connected to her. Now that was, this has come out, and according to NBC News, Lizzo has broke her silence as of today, stating that she is hurt, that she dismisses the sexual harassment respond to false allegations, but these are as unbelievable as they sound and too outrageous to not be addressed. So that's Lizzo making a statement. I'm sure her attorneys are probably on it. It's unfortunate. Of course, we hope that those things have not happened. Again, allegedly, this is what some of the dancers are saying. But Lizzo has made a statement saying that these allegations are false. And so, hey, we just hope it all works out. And being an entertainer is not always easy, but it's definitely shocking to hear that a woman and someone who is such a beacon for a representative for body positivity would be involved with anything like that. So, but Lizzo has spoken. She's made her statement that it's not true, and that the allegations are not true, are outrageous. They're false. And so, we'll definitely just kind of see how it plays out. But again, all victims, I do believe that all victims of any sexual harassment claims, any violence, hostility, should have their due and be able to state their truth. So we will see how it all plays out, and hopefully, everyone will be made, whole and ask the question, do you resent people who still wear masks? Okay, y'all. I do wear my mask a lot of times when I'm in the stores. I was in the good Walgreens the other day wearing my mask, and there was a woman acting so crazy behind me. I could not believe it. She was taking her cart and trying to push it close to me. Moving your cart back so I can have a little room to move around here, because she kind of had me blocked in at the cashier. And then I realized when I got back in the car, I'm like, hey, maybe I heard her mention something about germs or something like that. I don't know what. She was mumbling something under her breath. And I was like, oh, well, maybe she had felt some kind of way because I was moving. Often doing all of this right around you, nearly right in your face. So we have masks. So if you want to use it, use it. Do I always have a mask on if I go out to eat? No, I don't. I pick and choose, but I think that's a perfect person's preference. But I've talked to other people who've said to me that they feel like some people do act a little crazy around. They where I was wearing a mask because, hey, I'm out in the general Publix and I just usually keep a mask in my car or my bag. It is what it is. And I feel like I shouldn't have to explain it to you. You're a stranger. You don't have anything to do with how I keep myself healthy and well, just like I don't have anything to do with how you keep yourself healthy and well. So let's all be at peace. But that's easier said than done, right? So I'd love to know what you all think. Are you bothered by people still wearing a mask? Do you care? Do you pay attention to it? Do you start to tick and act a little crazy because someone has a mask on? I don't know. All right, y'all. That's my time. DuEwa here. I am done for this particular session of That's Code. As far as some of the cases that I mentioned, I'm just going to say allegedly. I'm just reporting on the news. I'm just reading things and reporting and discussing the same as anyone might do. This is a podcast, or if you want, you can consider it a vlog. I mean no harm to anyone. And of course, I wish the best for everyone. So that's definitely my creative disclaimer as an artist and as a podcaster. But definitely leave a comment and let me know what you think, and chime in if you want to. Okay, hopefully I'll be back again. LD.com. And hey, just, let me know what you think. You can also follow my podcast at Nerdosity Podcast on the socials. You can check out my podcast episodes on the good Spotify, Apple Podcast.